everyone here should be well aware that I love horror. The spooky things that go bump in the night really get one of my appendages from a flaccid state to a semi-hard state. Unfortunately, due to my severe erectile dysfunction, this is about as good as it gets.
Erectile dysfunction may occur when the blood vessels going to the penis become blocked or narrowed.
Horror appeals to me because it channels emotions that, unless you're a paranormal investigator who freaks out every time a cold breeze creates a drop in overall room temperature, most people never feel.
You can cross over!
Holy crap.
It provides a place where one can enjoy being scared without the repercussion of your family wondering why a middle-aged man is filming an empty house in the dark instead of finding a real job. Mainly, horror movies are the format that I tend to enjoy the most. But I've always had an interest in horror games. But, due to my attention span being as long as the average runtime of a movie, I haven't really completed many horror games. Also, because I haven't got the time to fuck around and wonder when I should save the bloody game in order to avoid replaying large chunks that will make me want to drive the fucking controller through my skull. One of the only horror game franchises I truly adore is Silent Hill. The whole concept of a town that uses your deepest regrets, personality traits, and darkest secrets against you is such a cool idea. And, like most fans of a beloved franchise, I have only completed the first game and recently finished the latest entry that was released just over 4 years ago. So, with all this background knowledge, I believe I am the most educated person to cover the topic of today's video. I thought it would be a great idea to discuss the already overly discussed topic of PT. Hooray! First, let's take the treacherous journey into spoiler territory. At the end of PT, it was revealed that we were in fact playing the teaser for a new Silent Hill game titled Silent Hills. Taking some inspiration from the Alien franchise, I see. If only I could find the reality where this game actually exists and I don't have crippling anxiety. Silent Hills was a game that I was very excited for. Considering the lackluster releases of this generation, do you blame me? This was the first title that truly got me excited for the fact I spent over 500 Australian dollars on a box whose only great releases were titles from the previous generation. Quality investment, Past Thomas. You sure know how to make wise purchases. Adding more coals to the hype train was the fact that Hideo Kojima would be directing the title with the help of the always sexy Guillermo del Toro, creature designs by the horror manga genius Junji Ito, and that guy from Boondock Saints. Knowing that Kojima's design philosophy of fuck with players as much as possible, combined with Del Toro's ability to create thick atmosphere in his films, and Junji Ito's ability to create sick and disturbing images, mostly from everyday mundane things, had me seeking a prescription for Viagra so that I could simulate my body's reaction to all of this information. The fact that this was a Silent Hill game made all of this news so much sweeter, and I don't even like sweets. Unless it's cheesecake, just fucking put all the cheesecake inside of me. Unfortunately, our story does not end with a happy ending. Konami are the personification of evil, and they decided to cancel this title, even though the teaser was met with universal praise from fans and critics alike. And just like that, suicide became a valid option.
Look at me!
Konami?
It's all for you!
But before that great business decision happened, we lived in a better time where people thought that Trump's chances for presidency seemed like a complete joke. The only people who saw Pauline Hanson on TV were those white enough to watch sunrise in the morning, and people still thought climate change wasn't real, but complained when each summer was hotter than the last.
NASA. Now NASA.
Yes.
The people that landed men on the moon. I should just ask, actually, you believe we landed men on the moon?
Wait, they still do that? On August 12th, 2014, a teaser simply known as PT was released on the PlayStation Store. It was a horror title that plunged the player into a perfectly crafted portion of a spooky house. Like, look at this shit! You know spooky stuff happens in this place. The gameplay was very simple. Players would just wander around a graphically gorgeous hallway and bathroom, examining objects and getting scared. Players also had the ability to dislodge their eyeballs, which allowed them to better investigate objects up close. Or so that this woman can scold you for peeking into the bathroom while she was taking a shit. Ah, Japan, you always know how to make me uncomfortable. All the while, soaking in the atmosphere that was as thick as my thighs. The main thing that this game is remembered for is the use of impossible space. You see, once you walk to the end of this hallway and go through this cheeky little door, you would assume that you would explore a new area. But fuck that! You are transported straight back to the side of the hallway you just explored. The first time that this happened, I had a massive grin on my face that is usually associated with the feeling I get when I see a child. Oh, I should probably finish this joke. Associated with the feeling that I get when I see a child being a little bastard, and unlike the parent who has to deal with that situation that they surely don't regret, I get to walk the fuck away. Even in bad horror movies or games, impossible space can create this sense of hopelessness, and can lead the main characters to question their sanity. Like, once you realise that you are trapped in a never-ending loop, you know you are doomed. With each loop of the hallway, new events and scares would appear. Some that will trigger no matter how many times you replay the game, and some that are completely random and make every playthrough somewhat unique. Like, what the fuck is the go with the green light thing? It's not even scary, it's purely there to make you feel uncomfortable or confused, and that's awesome! Unfortunately for those who have a heart condition, you are not alone. This lady named Lisa stalks you throughout PT. She either just stands there in one place and watches you, or she lunges at you and makes your digestive system momentarily process food at a faster pace. Lisa isn't the only cool thing about PT. There are so many tiny moments in PT that make the player feel uneasy, while forcing the player to ask questions that they have no clear answer to. The radio transmission informing the player of brutal crimes that you may or may not be guilty of.
His 6-year-old daughter had the good sense to hide in the bathroom, but reports suggest he lured her out by telling her it was just a game.
Or the hallway full of eyeballs where your movement speed is severely increased. Or the fridge full of blood dangling from the ceiling. All these moments are so memorable, and they all occurred in a short playable teaser. Sure, PT is a first-person horror game, which is not very original, but it was how the game flipped players' expectations in order to create something that was genuine and full of awesome scares and tense atmosphere. That is something that is severely lacking in recent horror titles. I'm looking at you, Resident Evil 7. I see you there. There is a goal present within PT. The player must somehow escape this house. But because this is a Kojima game and Kojima gets his rocks off by fucking with people, the goal isn't something that is easily or clearly reached. To this day, I have absolutely no fucking idea how to trigger the ending. I've heard campfire stories where some people say you must wait until midnight after key events have occurred and walk 10 steps until a baby cries. Others say you must talk into a microphone on your headset. Others suggest that you just play up to this point and just watch the ending on YouTube. Whichever works for you. With all of its memorable and scary moments, thick as my thighs atmosphere, and the ambiguous nature of its game design, PT got fans excited for a new Silent Hill game with Kojima and Del Toro at the helm. But Konami had to swoop in like a magpie of disappointment and ruin it for everybody. Konami even removed PT off the PlayStation Store. Konami wanted gamers to forget that PT ever existed. Hopefully Konami lets the franchise just die, or at least does something with it that fans will love.